Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance and then the National Anthem led by the Concord University Choir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Edward Huffstetler, Provost and Vice President of Academic Affairs.
Thank you, Dr. Robinette. Excuse me. For your role as Grand Marshal in today's ceremony, and thank you also to Dr. Kelly Hudson and the Concord Choir for your stirring performance of our national anthem. On behalf of Concord University, I welcome you all to our Founders Day celebration. Today, we celebrate our 151st year. Once a year, Concord University has the opportunity to celebrate Founders Day to reflect on the rich legacy and history of the university and to highlight the dedicated service of our faculty, staff, and students. Thank you all for joining us on this special occasion. When we celebrate our institution's founding, we typically invite guest speakers from the region to inspire us with their lives, their achievements, and values, which, whether or not they're an alumnus of the university, reflect the very best traditions of civic-minded service and dedication to others that we feel is at the very heart of what Concord University stands for. It is now my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for today's ceremony, Ms. Jessica Sell. A native of Barrettville, West Virginia, Ms. Sell attended the University of North Carolina as an undergraduate on full scholarship as a member of the women's basketball team. During her time there, Ms. Sell was her squad's academic team captain, the athletic director's scholar athlete, a Dean's List participant, and a member of the ACC Academic Honor Roll. She graduated in 2006 with a BA in Communications and a concentration in Ethical Philosophy. Later, Ms. Sell obtained a master's degree, summa cum laude, from Fairmont State University in Education, with an additional concentration in Business and Leadership. Ms. Sell began her professional career at the University of North Carolina within athletics as an associate director of recruiting for women's basketball. She then worked as an assistant women's basketball coach for the University of California in Irvine and was a compliance coordinator for the athletics program in Orange County, overseeing all sports. From 2012 to 2016, Ms. Sell served West Virginia's United States Senator Joe Manchin as a caseworker and a regional coordinator, where she managed hundreds of active constituent cases in some 12 to 15 counties in north central West Virginia. From 2016 to 2019, Ms. Sell served Fairmont State University in development, government relations, and outreach. She cultivated and closed some of the largest philanthropic gifts in institutional history at that time. From 2019 to 2021, Ms. Sell served as Deputy Administrator for Harrison County, West Virginia, where she assisted in the oversight of 300-plus employees across all departments and elected offices. From 2021 to 2022, she served as VP for Business Development, Government Affairs at Monco Constructors and served as Chief of Staff for RLI Solutions Company. Both positions were focused on strategic organizational expansion, government relations, client stewardship, and business development. Ms. Sell now serves as Vice President of Congressional Affairs and Community Outreach for Rank One Computing, Made in USA. She also serves as a member of the Fairmont-Marion County Transit Authority Governing Board. Along with her career achievements, Ms. Sell has also served many volunteer organizations in a variety of capacities. She recently served as co-chair of the Women's Energy Network, as a board member and construction volunteer for Habitat for Humanity International, as a volunteer and participant in Gatorade's Get Kids in Action program to benefit local communities and schools, as a governing board member of the UNC Women's Basketball Advisory Alumni Board, as a governing member of Fairmont-Marion County Transit Authority, and as a fundraising volunteer for the United Way. Please join me in welcoming to the podium Ms. Jessica Sell.
Well, with that said, I guess you could say I just told Madam President, basically she can't keep a job, so there's that. It's an honor to be with you all today. I'm just a girl that makes no apologies for these three things: my faith, my family, and my West Virginia roots. I'm from a small town in West Virginia, and I had a dream, and my faith and my family and these West Virginia roots have brought me full circle. So there's nothing good in me apart from the Jesus in me, and I make no apologies for that. But what I'm going to share with you today is my story as it pertains to different levels and different roles in my life. And I hope that I can touch the heart of everybody here, because I think that we all play one of these roles no matter what our current position is, as a student, as a professional. I'm going to keep refreshing this. I usually don't keep notes, but I had a couple things hit me that I didn't want to lose today. I was asked recently, currently I serve as a vice president in the world of a biometrics computer vision technology firm. Now, you heard everything about my very word salad resume, and none of that says biometrics or software engineer, but yet I'm serving as a vice president in that organization. And I was recently doing a talk with some students in higher education through WVU, and they were asking my advice based on my position with this company, and that I'm always the one thing that's not like the other in any organization that I find myself in. And my advice to them was, be who you are and never worry about who you are not. I think it's very important that we don't compare ourselves among ourselves no matter what season of life that we're in, because everyone has a superpower. Every one of you, I don't care how young or how old you are, there's a superpower that's in you that's unique to you and your DNA that nobody else can duplicate. And unless you reach the potential, or unless you strive to reach your potential every moment of every day, the world is missing out on something that only your fingerprint can impact. And so that is how I've really kept my focus on within any organization that was mentioned, because I've had to focus on who I am and not who I am not, if that makes sense to you. So there's a cycle. When I did my master's thesis, I talked about this cycle within leadership. And I didn't read it in a book, I didn't study it, it was down in me. And I felt like there's this cycle of success, and it's a wheel that keeps turning. And in every season of life, we're either the mentee, we need somebody that is mentoring us, we need somebody over us that has been there, that has done that is inspiring us. We need somebody to come alongside us that holds us accountable. We need that iron that sharpens iron. We need that person to make me feel better about myself, make me feel like I can do better. Can I lay my head down tonight and feel like I did everything I could to make today great? And then we need to be the mentor. Is there somebody that we're pouring into? Is there a situation that I'm looking back and I'm extending my hand and I'm saying, hey, come up here, come up higher. I want to encourage you. I want to inspire you. So in every season of life, you're either being mentored, you should be, no matter how young or old you are. You should have somebody on your level to push you every day, and you should also be looking back and pouring into someone else. Otherwise, you become stagnant and you dry up. And I found that to be true in that entire resume that was just read. And that's really what has carried me through my life and career to date. So what I'm going to share with you today is quite personal. It's my story and what brought me through to where I am today and what brought me home to West Virginia. So you heard that I played basketball. I received a scholarship to UNC. And I played basketball at North Carolina for 4 years, traveled the world, went to Italy, went to Greece. We played in the Final Four, Elite Eight. I stayed on staff, and we went to another Final Four. And then I went out to Southern California and lived at the beach and worked for the University of California, Irvine out there. And I never dreamed that I would be able to come home and be successful or be fulfilled. You know, going through high school, you always felt like, well, I just have to get away to find success. I just have to leave. I can't be successful in state. Like, thanks West Virginia, thanks family, thanks faith for making me who I am today, but I just can't stay. And while I'm sitting in Southern California one day, I had this, whatever you want to call it, an unction deep down inside that was drawing me back home. And I just want to share that story with you today. So if you would indulge me for just a few minutes, I hope that my testimony and my story, if I'm here if I drove 3 hours and 7 minutes to inspire one person, then that's okay for me. Because I know that my steps are ordered and I'm here for a reason. And I didn't come this far, and I certainly have a long way to go, but I didn't come this far to not reach back today and try to help somebody. So I'm West Virginia Player of the Year, 2002, best player in the state, Gatorade State Player of the Year. Still hold records at my high school for rebounding and scoring and all this stuff that doesn't matter. But I leave being the best in the state, and I go to North Carolina, and I had some of the hardest years of my life there, an identity crisis. And basketball wasn't going the way that I thought it should go. And I realized that I kind of got some things out of order. I stood up here behind this podium and I said faith and family and roots. And I got to UNC and I found out that all basketball had to do was go south for a little bit. And then I lost all of that. My life was completely out of balance. And I realized that I held basketball a little too high. And what that means today is what you do is not necessarily where your identity is. You have to go back to those roots, and you have to help them enhance what you do, but what you do is never who you are. It's just part of your story. Who you are enhances what you do. So I get to UNC, and I experience some real trials and temptations and different things in my life. I almost transferred, I almost quit basketball altogether. And then one day it dawned on me, I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. And if all I'm going to do is ride that bench and cheer for the rest of my team, even though it wasn't fair, it wasn't right, but I'm not leaving, I'm going to be here, and I'm going to be the best, whatever the role I'm given, I'm going to be the best at it. So we had a strength and conditioning coach that left and went to the Minnesota Timberwolves. If that tells you how good our strength and conditioning coach was. I stayed one summer session all year. I never went home. I didn't see my family, but maybe 1.5 weeks out of that year. My vertical increased astronomically. My fitness was off the charts. And you know what? I played less the next year. If it was possible to play less, I played even less. I did everything that my coaches told me to do. I met every fitness requirement. I was guarding the NCAA Player of the Year that year. From the three-point line in, she couldn't get more than 3 dribbles on my on-the-ball defense, and I played less. So, but I stuck with it, and I said, no, I'm not going anywhere. I almost transferred to Notre Dame. I almost transferred to Florida State, and I actually almost came home to WVU. And I said, no, I'm not going to do it. So fast forward, we get all the way to I'm getting ready to start my senior year. And there was a situation that happened that was completely unethical, and It was just wrong. You know, have you ever had someone just lie about you and completely make things up that's just not true? And things went out in the papers and different things in the Daily Tar Heel, and it was very hurtful for me, especially from a leader that I really respected at that time. And I still stuck through it and stuck with it. And the reporters called me, and unbeknownst to me, I just gave my honest opinion and my honest, experience of what happened. And they did their research, and they realized that I was definitely wronged, and they wanted to do something about it. So this article comes out, and it would have completely destroyed, I won't say the organization, I won't say the person, because I have great relationships with everyone to this day. That's the grace of the whole situation. But I read this article, I read the draft of it, and my phone was ringing. I mean, a very high-level person at the University of North Carolina was calling my phone 41 times, and I wouldn't answer it, because this is the person, this is the leader that I respected and looked up to that completely let me down and lied about me. And it was completely unwarranted. I, didn't do anything to deserve it. And I didn't answer the phone, and I was just chomping at the bit waiting for this article to publish the next day in the Daily Tar Heel. And as my phone was ringing for the 42nd time, I heard something deep down in me, and it goes back to my faith, my family, and my West Virginia roots. And I heard, anytime it's in your power to bring your own vengeance or to try to bring justice by your own strength, don't do it. Let me handle it. And I knew where that was coming from. I don't need to tell any of you where that was coming from. I know for me where that was coming from. I picked up the phone, and I didn't call the leader that was calling me, but I called the Daily Tar Heel. And I asked that reporter, will you please not run this? And he said, are you crazy? This would set everything straight. This would completely exploit things that have been going on, and it wasn't just you. This has happened for years before you even came. But your situation brought it to light, and we can bring justice to this whole situation. And I said, I understand that, but it'll come. But it doesn't need to come because I participated in something that could hurt another person, even though they deserved it. I had every right to do that. Nobody would have ever told me that I was in the wrong. But I knew, based on who I am from being raised in this great state of West Virginia by great people like you all that are sitting in this room, I knew what I had to do that was right in that moment for me. Because I needed to be true to who I was, and I didn't need to worry about who I wasn't in that scenario. So they were furious, and they said, we never do this, but we'll pull the story. So they pulled that story. Fast forward. My point to all this is you never know when someone is watching you. My whole career, I have been advanced because somebody was watching me in a pressure situation, and I didn't know they were watching me. As far as I was concerned, nobody was looking at me, and woe is me. I'm all alone, I'm in the dark, I'm confused. Nobody's looking at me, nobody cares what I do. No matter what I do, I never seem to get ahead. My playing time's decreasing. But I guarantee you, my friends, somebody with the power to help you and change your life is always watching you in every season of your life. And for me, that was happening. I didn't know that. But fast forward, we're playing in the Final Four. At this point, I had a starting position. I earned a starting position my entire senior year. So I score in the Final Four, the biggest stage of my life, Boston Celtics Arena. It was just amazing. Now, my coach had this rhythm that every so often I would just come out of the game. I'm coming out no matter what I do. At this time, the first media timeout, I'm coming out. I'm getting subbed out of the game. Okay. So that happened, like usual. I scored a couple three-pointers, gave us our last lead of the whole Final Four, and I get benched, but that was normal to me. So I assumed my position as the cheerleader on the bench, and I had made my commitment 2 years earlier that I'm here, and I'm here to do that, and that's fine. We lose the game, and it was the last game of my career, and the next morning, my academic advisor looks over at me, and she says, Jess, why did you ask to come out of the game last night when you did? You were kind of a spark plug, and why did you ask Coach to take you out of the game? And I said, Dr. Boxell, I didn't ask to come out of the game. Are you insane? I'm a senior. It's my last game. I was crawling down the court. I'm not going to ask to come out of the game. She said, well, Coach told ESPN on live television when they asked, why did you take your senior spark plug out of the game at that time? she told national television that you asked to come out of the game. And I was like, no, she didn't. That didn't happen. But you know what? What am I going to do? My career was over. I wasn't going to play anymore. So I just took it on the chin and just said, you know, something good will come out of this. We were playing Maryland in that game, and Maryland that year went on to win the national championship. Their coach was that year's coach of the year for that year of the Final Four, Brenda Frese. And what I didn't realize was through my entire career at UNC, up to that interview, because Brenda Frese sat by my coach in that interview, she was watching me. And I had a job offer to coach at UNC. And then I wanted to go out to Southern California, and I needed a reference. And without me even trying, Brenda Frese says to me, the National Coach of the Year, she says, I've been watching you your whole career. I know everything. You don't have to tell me anything. I'm a coach. I get the politics of this. I get the money that's involved. I get all of it. I know everything that you've been through. And I want you to know I've watched you, and I've watched your character. And I want to be the first phone call so that you get your first job coaching Division I women's basketball anywhere you want. So wherever you get an interview, put me first on the list. This woman never watched me practice one day in my life. I never thought she cared about me. I never thought she knew my name. But she was watching me, and in one of the hardest seasons of my life. Someone's always watching you. So if you move forward, that's essentially what's happened my whole career. I work out in Southern California. I feel that, I told you earlier, I felt that nudge to come home. I start working for Senator Manchin because those folks on his staff, they were watching me in times of my life that I never knew they knew I existed. But they had watched me, and they had followed me. And then when I went to interview with his state director, who's now a partner at Jackson Kelly, I was so intimidated when I'm sitting in that interview with the United States Senate. And they were asking me questions, and God is my witness, I didn't even speak correct sentences. I was so nervous, I didn't even sound like I could speak. And they asked me one question that dealt with constituents. And they said, Jessica, if the senator had a phone call to the office and you picked it up and it was somebody for DHHR benefits, hypothetically, and then the very next phone call that rang was a personal friend of his and it was an emergency and they needed to speak with him immediately, how would you handle dealing with those two situations? How would you prioritize them and how would you handle them? Meanwhile, there were plenty of other people that were interviewing for this job with real experience, that their resumes looked a lot better than mine. But I looked at him, and I tapped into who I was, and I didn't worry about who I wasn't at the time. And I said, well, sir, I feel like if your personal friend is calling you, and they really need to speak to you, they would have your number, and they could cut out the middleman. So commonsensically speaking, I think that's a non-issue. I would answer the calls and the needs in the order that they were received. So I would handle the DHHR benefits and make sure that constituent was taken care of properly. We moved on. They asked me a few other questions, and I fumbled through the interview. And I left, and I called my mom, and I said, Mom, we'll get to put on my resume one day that I interviewed with the United States Senator, because I don't think this is going anywhere. It was Thanksgiving of that year, and they called me, and they said, do you want to be part of Team Manchin? And I said, if this is not real, this is very mean and hateful because it's Thanksgiving. And she said, no, what you didn't understand is he was looking for the right answer to one of those questions. And it was about how you treat people, because they're not constituents, they're people. How do you treat people? And that's what he cared about. And as soon as the door slammed shut behind you when you left, the senator looked at me and said, she's got the job. In the worst interview of my life, just one moment of tapping into who I am and not worrying about who I'm not helped get me that job. While I'm working for the senator, there was a problem child. I always seemed to have to deal with this person. Every time he called, it was just awful. There was always drama. It was always something. And I always had to deal with him. And we actually had a joke in the office. I actually just talked to one of my former colleagues the other day about it. And I said, "Do you remember so-and-so?" And she said, "Oh, Jessica, absolutely." And I said, "You guys always gave him to me to deal with." And they never seemed like they were huge deals, but he made something out of nothing. He always made a mountain out of a molehill. Well, fast forward, it's time for me to transition out of the Senate, and this person calls me, and I thought, oh no, what does he want now? I'm in the middle of transitioning, and what does he want? And he says, "Jessica, I want to hire you." And I said, "You want to hire me? To do what?" And I'll leave the details out, but the bottom line is, he said, "You handled me better than anybody else I'd ever dealt with in that office. You were always available, you always called me back, and I know that I'm not easy to deal with." And that was the first time in my career that I was able to negotiate a salary and a position and to actually get something created for me that didn't exist in an organization. And it all goes back to those roots of who I am, not who I'm not, and staying true to that. No matter how much pressure is on you, no matter how many people you think are against you, no matter how much solitude you feel you're surrounded by, be true to who you are and what you know deep down is the right thing to do in that moment, because it's a moment that could change your life. And that's essentially why I am where I am today. While I was with Senator Manchin, staffing him at a biometrics forum at the waterfront in Morgantown, West Virginia, way back in 2014, it was the same event that I had to deal with that problem child. The same event. And I'm also staffing the senator. And if anyone's ever staffed an elected official at that level, you need roller skates to keep up. And you don't get to eat, and you don't get to have any refreshments. You hustle hard. But I met my current CEO at that event. And from 2014 to 2022, when I took this current position, he has been watching me. And how would I know that someone's been watching me for 9 years? He doesn't even live in West Virginia. He's from West Virginia, but he doesn't live here. So I say all that to say, it's very important where you are right now. It's not insignificant where you are. Sitting in that chair, I believe, was predestined from the time that you were born. No matter how young you are, or no matter how old you are, no matter what your position is. I'm behind this podium for a reason. No matter how great or how small, it's for a reason. And everything that I've been through, I can attribute it to the three things that I mentioned, and to truly tapping into the superpower of who you really are, because that will be the undercurrent through every scenario of your life. And it can always lead you home, whether that's like me, full circle back to West Virginia, wherever home is for you. But there's nothing that you can't do from being right here in West Virginia. There's no task that's too hard. There's no dream that's too big. I've literally traveled the world, and I got to choose to come back here. And it's been simple. I'm just a small town girl. There's nothing extra special or wonderful about me. But greater is he who is in me. And I'm so thankful for the people in my life, every season of my life, that have helped me to stay true to that. So I thank you kindly for your attention today. I thank you for listening to me. And I just pray that I help to inspire someone with this story. Thank you, and God bless.
It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Kendra Bragas, President of Concord University.
Thank you so much, and Jessica, thank you for those inspiring words. I think we'll remember them for a long time. That was absolutely wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Robinette, Dr. Huffstetler, Dr. Hudson again, and the Concord Choir. And thank you, faculty, staff, and students who are here. I want to take a few minutes first to recognize several guests who have joined us for today's ceremony. If you will please stand when I call your name, I'd appreciate it. Emerita President Dr. Jerry Beasley is here. Welcome. 3 of our Board of Governors members are here, Dr. Corey Williams, Miss Amy Pitzer, and Miss Stella Dunn. Will you please stand? Thank you. Today we're going to take a few minutes from our busy schedules and we're going to celebrate the founding of this wonderful university. As has been said, this is our 151st year. Founders Day is simply a time that we can celebrate the rich history and the promising future of Concord. It allows us a time to reflect on how our past has shaped who we are, and it gives us an opportunity to define the goals we've set for ourselves and for the future. We have seen many changes in our institution during its history. Concord was chartered by the state legislature on February 28, 1872, as a branch of the state normal school. We were offering normal teaching certificates to those preparing to instruct in area schools. We opened our doors to the first 70 students at the site of today's Athens Elementary School on State Street. The present campus grew from a 26-acre farm plot that was purchased from the Vermillion family after fire devastated it in the Midtown location in November 1910. The name of our institution has changed a number of times. We were Concord State Normal School, then Concord State Teachers College in 1931, to Concord College in 1943, and finally to Concord University in 2004. Like those who came before us, each of us share a deep commitment to and belief in the power of education to make a difference in the lives of our students, our communities, and the greater society. Concord has always been a pillar of educational excellence. It's an institution committed to community service and a place that welcomes all who want to come to learn and go to serve. Concord offers the bright light of opportunity to students and to the local, statewide, and international communities where education, grounded by a solid liberal arts foundation and a diversity of ideas and people, are valued. It is not often that we have time and the opportunity to recognize the individuals who make Concord the place we all call home, but this is a day that we can do that. So I would like to acknowledge several individuals whose dedication to Concord, its mission, and most importantly, its students, merit nomination for the Presidential Excellence Awards. It's been both an honor and a challenge to choose amongst the numerous and worthy nominations. As my executive assistant, Laura Wilwine, will tell you, she comes to me with a book each year and she says, you need to go through these and pick the winners. And I'm like, this is my least favorite job because they're all merited. They all have great merit, and it's difficult to make those decisions. Nominations came from every constituency group, and they were made across all categories of people. The candidates may have been nominated by a student, a staff member, or a faculty member. So I'm going to call the names of the nominees for each of the awards, and if you would please stand as your name was called and stay standing for the group, I would appreciate that. The Faculty Presidential Excellence Award nominees are Dr. David Ball, Dr. Michael Bean, Dr. Jonathan Berkey, Miss Catherine Bowe, Dr. Logan Browning, Dr. Manj Burdekar, Dr. Kim Chambers, Dr. David Chambers, Dr. Doug Creer, Dr. Charlotte Davis, Dr. William Deck, Miss Robin Durham, Miss Tiffany Everett, Miss Angela Fideli, Dr. Tom Ford, Dr. Karen Griffey, Dr. Nola Gum, Dr. Kathy Hawks, Dr. Alice Hawthorne Allen, Dr. Tracy Luff, Dr. Thomas McKenna, Miss Marie Newcomb Richmond, Dr. Katie Nutter Pridgeon, Dr. Joan Pendergast, Dr. Tina Powell, Dr. Stephen Pridgeon, Mr. Logan Reagan, Dr. Susan Robinette, Dr. Tom Salatiga, Dr. George Williams, and Dr. Darla Wise. Please give a round of applause to these extraordinary faculty. Thank you. Will the winners please come forward as your name is announced and receive your plaques? The faculty presidential awardees are Katie Bowe and Dr. George Williams. The three of us? So we learned from that one. The Classified Staff Presidential Excellence Award nominees are Larry Bowles, Charlie Brown, Eddie Daniels, Chase Edwards, Nancy Ellison, Vanessa Howell, Christy Lamb, Crystal Land, Doug Moore, Lauren Phillips, Amy Pitzer, Angela Prophet, Stephanie Terry, Laura Woolwine, and Kalila Workfield. Will the winners please come forward together and receive your plaques? Larry Bowl and Laura Woolwine. The non-classified staff presidential excellence award nominees are Kristen Bailey, William Billings, Jamie Boggs, Lindsay Byers, Austin Clay, Blake Farmer, Dan Fitzpatrick, Teresa Fry, Anna Hardy, Eric Jewell, Dara Ladner, Colton Lively, Steve Miller, Marcus Murrell, Rose Preston, Derek Scott, and Carolyn Worley. And if the winners will please come forward, Lindsay Byers, who I know cannot be here, Rose Preston, and, and Dara Ladner. The Auxiliary Staff Presidential Excellence Award nominees are Peggy Christian with Aramark, Ray Klein, HES, Bonnie Kelly, Aramark, Robin Lambert, Aramark, Denise Phillips, HES, and Beth Sampson, the Research Corp, SSS. And the winners are Ray Klein and Beth Sampson. The Student Presidential Excellence Award nominees are Jasmine Abrell, Bethany Breeden, Grace Combs, Molly Cook, Riley Costello, Stella Dunn, Peyton Elswick, Catherine Helmick, Nathan Lockhart, Jolie Meadows, and Corbin Snyder. And the winners are Peyton Elswick, Stella Dunn, and Nathan Lockhart.
This is Nathan here, right?
Okay, this is Nathan first. Do Nathan. Okay. As we celebrate Founders Day, we extend to you our continued commitment that Concord University will remain the place for excellence and accomplishment, that it would astound and delight those founders who have come before us. It was their dream, and we recognize that their preparations and sacrifices were made in order for our students to achieve their dreams and their goals. We've taken up that dream and we carry it forward today. It is important for us to come together on occasions like Founders Day, not only to remember, to acknowledge, and to thank those people who've come before us, but to also give ourselves a chance to reflect on the triumph that takes place every day on the Concord University campus. Thanks to each of you. I sincerely thank you all for having come, taking the time to join us, and I look forward to seeing you often on the campus beautiful. Thank you.
Please stand for the alma mater. The words can be found on the back cover of your program. All right. Now that we've had our scare, if the audience may be seated while the faculty remain standing for the recessional, and please join us for a small reception at the back of the ballroom. I guess.
didn't try to tell David, because I would have killed him. I would have killed him.